Bobby Charlton, well done, Manchester United.
It's a Sheringham, and Solskjaer has won it! And it's saved it! United again! Renee! A magnificent goal by Robin van Persie!
Welcome to United Hour, your official Red Cafe podcast for all things Manchester United. I'm your host, Nick.
And I'm Jamie.
Yeah, here we are for our Christmas podcast. We didn't manage to record after the Everton game, so we'll be covering our Leicester draw, our win against Everton in the Carabao Cup, looking ahead to Wolves and then Villa as well. And it's an absolute packed schedule we've got at the moment, so yeah, it's difficult for us to keep up with all the games and get recording, especially at Christmas time. But yeah, Merry Christmas to all our listeners
Christmas
out there. Hope you managed to have a good Christmas, Jamie, because yeah, like I say, I don't know what your rules have been in Scotland, but in England, Boris tried to cancel Christmas like a week before, but I still managed to have some kind of Christmas and catch up with family and stuff like that where we could. But yeah, it was a very pared down version. And I know, yeah, maybe in Scotland you had similar things going on. And yeah, I guess all around the world, it's not been the same as it usually would be.
No, it's been terrible for everyone. Up here, the Tier 4 was more or less national, and that started on Boxing Day. So literally from midnight on Christmas Day, getting into Boxing Day, that was the Tier 4 system for everybody, unfortunately. Had a decent Christmas Day, at least. It was very watered down, as you say, compared to previous years. And it just looks like the next few weeks are going to be quite tough for everyone, so hopefully everybody's coping well and not having too many serious issues at the moment, but it is difficult.
Yeah, a lot of people have been alone for Christmas that they wouldn't usually be, and I spoke to a mate of mine actually yesterday who wouldn't usually be alone, and he said, yeah, the thing that's keeping him going is the football.
It's a festive feast.
That's it. Every couple of games, you know, there's football every day. We're playing every 3 days. So, yeah, it's at least something to keep the football fans going out there. So, yeah, no, we're recording actually the day after Leicester. Still had a bit of a Christmas Day hangover yesterday, so none of us were in the mood to be recording. But, yeah, we're recording today on the 27th. And, yeah, look, 2-2 was the result. I mean, before the match, I probably would have said I'll be happy with the draw, because Leicester in pretty good form. You know, it was essentially second versus third and playing for second place. But at the end of the game, you come out being slightly kind of disappointed, really. I don't know if that's how you felt.
No, it was. Before the game, a draw would have absolutely taken. Leicester were in pretty good form away from home. They were having a difficult time at home, kind of similar to United, actually, in terms of the form at home and away from home. But even then, they're second in the table, they're playing some good stuff, so I would have taken a draw. But the way the game unfolded, actually was quite disappointed at full time yesterday. We didn't manage to get the 3 points, because I just think it was a couple of mistakes from us. We've gifted a couple of cheap goals, because as much as Leicester did play well at times, I didn't think De Gea was under too much stress. So to draw the game, I was disappointed, but on reflection, it's not a bad point.
It's not a bad point. I mean, we had this obviously crazy record away from home, and we actually have now not managed to record the all-time Premier League record, which was 11 wins in a row. We had the 10. And as well, usually we've been going behind, so for the first time in ages, we've actually scored first and take it from there. So I guess that's the disappointing thing, that we were up twice in this match, but didn't manage to hold on to it. I thought it was actually really great. Did you see these comments from Bruno?
Yes.
Who's saying, you know, how kind of disappointed the dressing room was post-match. And yeah, he said, I was really happy when I got into the dressing room and saw everyone disappointed and saying the things we had to do better. We're creating a winning mentality and we are not happy with this point. Of course, we're frustrated because we know we had the chances to get the points. It was important for us because we want to win all the games. They have a good team, but I think we had the chances to win this game. And for it to be 2-1 at 85 minutes, you don't want to concede a goal. So yeah, I mean, yeah, it kind of really echoes our thoughts, really. But yeah, that's the good thing. You know, a while ago, we would have been really happy to come away from what is essentially a biggish game of two top-of-the-table teams coming away for a draw. But yeah, to say we're disappointed makes the difference. And the XG kind of plays out like that as well. As you said, there wasn't that many times David De Gea actually had that much to do. The XG for us, it was like 2.08 versus 1.04 in our favour. So really showing that we should have really won this game 2-1. That was what the real killer. And as well, we had so many chances. I mean, Rashford in particular misses an absolute sitter just in the first few minutes. There was another one later that was, a lot of people were saying Schmeichel made a good save, but for me, I think Rashford should have even done better there. And that's the kind of slight frustration. But yeah, look, in general, still it's positive because we've played well. We've had a good run. You're not going to win every single match. And we're still, quite well poised over there. If we look back at the kind of lineup over here, there was everybody was unsure on how we were setting up over here because you see Bailly and Lindelof and Maguire on the team sheet. And I think a lot of people assumed, and I did, that we were going to be playing three at the back with Daniel James kind of playing wing back. In the end, it didn't really play out like that. Lindelof's played right back and it was a more natural kind of 4-2-3-1. And James has been given another game over here. I mean, earlier in the season, I remember we kind of wrote him off a bit, saying, he's way out of form, not worthy anywhere near. And then he came back in that Leeds game and actually did pretty well, even getting a goal. Did you think he did well in this game over here and deserves to be back in contention?
It's nice to see him back in contention. I actually think the goal he scored for Wales in, I think it was the last international break, maybe has gave him a wee bit more confidence. The performance against Leeds I thought was good. Yeah, I thought he played well. I can't remember, who was it he scored against recently?
Leeds.
Funny enough, Leeds. There was one before that as well. I was thinking it must have been in the Champions League game against Leipzig, maybe.
He did get.
So, I don't know, maybe just these goals just have gave him a wee bit more confidence. I did think it was a 3-5-2 when I saw the lineup because three centre halves playing. I forgot Lindelof is able to play right back, and I actually kind of thought even after the first 5-10 minutes I still wasn't really sure what lineup we were playing because Leicester did seem to be getting in really easily down our right hand side, their left hand side, and we showed it up eventually, but I just think maybe it took 10 minutes or so for the players to get used to the formation, just due to the personnel who was playing. And like I say, I was just about all over the place myself watching it. I did think Dan James was going to be playing right wing back, but I thought it was another decent performance yesterday. It's just at times the final ball and the final decision just lets him down a wee bit. There was at one point in the second half yesterday where we had a break and I can't remember if it was Fred found him, I think, and he was running into the Leicester half, and all he's got to do is just make the pass to, if it was Bruno or Rashford or whoever, and it's literally that player will be going through one-on-one, and it's a relatively easy pass, and he doesn't make it. Leicester clear the ball. It's just situations like that. I would just like to see his final ball improve and his final decision improve. But yeah, I'm just glad to see that he seems to have found a wee bit of confidence and he's back in and around the team, which is good.
Yeah, he has definitely been playing better. I still don't find him that convincing. I do still think it's a bit weird that he keeps being played on the right-hand side. Because, lately we've seen Rashford actually playing a fair bit on the right and doing okay. And James is definitely more naturally left-sided. So why Ole keeps persisting on the right-hand side, I kind of think they should switch the other way round. But it probably wasn't the major issue. And as you said, we were creating chances. It was often the last ball, a couple of times like slightly offside. But like that Leeds game, we were constantly going for that ball in behind every time. And there was like a couple of times Rashford was offside. There was one time Martial offside when he actually had a good finish. But yeah, each time was going for that. And I remember the exact point you were saying where James was through and it was kind of 2-on-1. And if he'd made the right ball, Bruno was going to be through. Yeah. But there was another time where he actually did well. He came out from a corner with a couple of good touches, fed through to Martial, and it was actually him who lost it in the end. I think he did all right, but I think we keep going back to the same theme all along, that we're still in desperate need of another winger, and it is that kind of area that we think we can upgrade. But yeah, like I say, it is good to see him back in and around the team after being written off. As I say, we wrote him off ourselves. So yeah, he is playing better and at least getting in the mix over there. But yeah, they've still not managed to see him at wing back yet. It is actually interesting because I think he could actually have all the attributes to be a decent wing back. And at some point, maybe in a cup game here or something like that, it might be something that's worth checking out. Or possibly he's too lightweight to be playing defensive. The one annoying thing I still always see with Dan James, and it happened again, often he gets penalised and given even yellow cards for diving, when I just think it's pretty clear that he's getting shoved off the ball himself, and is often really unlucky in that regard. But anyway, look, he had a decent hour out there. And yeah, if we go back and say that, Rashford misses a sitter early on, but he makes up for it with a decent finish after Bruno gets a kind of mistake assist. So yeah, we get that first goal and go ahead for the first time in so long in an away game. We actually start well, go ahead, you're feeling good. But yeah, within 10 minutes, we're back to 1-1 basically. And over there, it was a really good finish from Harvey Barnes, but it does start with Bruno giving the ball away, and then I don't know whether you give some blame more. There's McTominay, Bailly up there who could maybe do better to block this goal. I always like to play back goals and really try and work out where was the mistake here. That's my kind of defensive instinct. It's the same I do when I'm playing. Always look for somebody to blame, and of course it's never me. It has to be somebody else. But yeah, I don't know whether you just thought it was a great strike from Barnes or who you'd give a bit of blame to for that goal.
I think there's a couple of players with a wee bit of fault. Kind of going back to Rashford, yeah, the goal he scored was a good finish, but he just needs to develop that more ruthless streak where the chance he gets in the first minute, he just buries it. It's an easy chance, and it's almost as if he's took his eye off it, and he's more thinking, I'm just going to score. So he takes his eye off the ball and tries to head it. Heads it too early, the ball goes off the top of his head and goes over the bar, and that he just needs to develop that ruthless instinct when it comes to goal scoring, a bit like Salah has at Liverpool, where he's just ice cold and chances like that he scores. But it is a good finish for his goal. I think you're doing Bruno a disservice. I don't think he's trying to control it. I just think he realises he's not going to be able to control it, so it's just a flick on. I don't know if he's even meaning to find Rashford. I think he's just meaning to flick it to somewhere in particular, and it's just lucky that it goes through, and Rashford is waiting for the ball. But it is a good finish by Rashford. The goal that Leicester scored, I think, I love McTominay to bits, everybody knows that, but I think he's slow to get out and put pressure on the ball. Barnes just has too much time and too many touches at his feet to shift the ball onto his left foot before he hits it, and I would have liked to have seen McTominay just close down a little bit faster. But as much as anybody else, I also think De Gea, if De Gea is literally one step more to his right hand side and dives, I think he saves it. And I know he's trying to see round Bailey to see where the ball's coming, but just when I was watching it, I watched it back there just before we started recording. Part of me is a bit like De Gea needs to do better there. If he's literally just half a step further over to his right and he dives, he saves it. Because when you watch the ball go by his hand, it is literally just by his hand and no more. So, watching the goal back, I think McTominay's at fault, needs to close down faster. But for me, I do think De Gea has to do a bit better there.
Well, I don't know. I think he was at full stretch. I don't think he was in a really bad starting position either. I don't give too much blame to him. As I say, I actually think the one who gets away with blame for this is actually Bruno, because he's the one who initially gives the ball away.
Yeah,
and it definitely starts from there. And it was poor from him. We kind of had won it back, and for him to lose the ball in that area is actually bad. And it is that one thing that I have mentioned myself a few times that is his slight weakness, is that he will give the ball away quite a bit in any game, like more than probably any of our other players. But the fact that he racks up those goals, he racks up those assists, you kind of say it's still worth it. But it's the only dangerous thing, especially, in and around our box, and end up getting punished over there. But, it was a pretty tight game apart from there. Not a huge amount of chances. But as I say, the XG shows that we did deserve to win this over there. I mean, one thing I did think was interesting then, we go into the second half, is Ole actually made a change way earlier than he usually would do, and trying actually to push for making something happen in this game. I think he saw that this is an opportunity for us to win and to really start saying we are in this title race. And he takes out Daniel James and brings in Pogba. And at 53 minutes, it's pretty rare for Ole to make changes before like the hour, even 70-minute mark, unless we're really like in desperate need of it. So yeah, I did think that was quite a kind of just the mentality of him saying, listen, we can actually win this game. I'm not happy with a draw. This would take us into second place. So yeah, he makes that change over there. Again, we start coming back into it. Cavani also comes in over there. And then, yeah, you say that, that is the inspired substitution that kind of gives us the lead in the end. It is great to see Cavani not only being a finisher, actually to come and set up chances as well. And he'd done it earlier in the season as well, where we'd seen a great cross from him coming in. But yeah, again, it's a perfect ball through to Bruno, and just a great time for a finish over there. And you really were hoping, with 10 minutes left, that we could go on for this win.
Yeah, on the start of the second half, I thought we were very pedestrian, actually. McTominay and Fred in the middle, they are excellent in certain games, and even in most other games where we have a bit more of the ball, I would think it's fine because of who's playing in front of them, but yesterday we just seemed very pedestrian and too slow in the middle of the park, and I was kind of glad to see Solskjaer decide to try and make a difference to the team and bringing Pogba on. Just, you've got another player then coming on who can hit the more rangy pass and the more difficult pass than the likes of McTominay and Fred normally will try or even succeed with. Because after we made that change, there was some excellent chances. Martial scores, but it's just offside and no more. That was unlucky. I thought the Schmeichel save was a great save, I must say. Rashford probably should do a bit better in terms of maybe hit it closer to the post. But there was a replay after the game, and you hear how hard Rashford hits it. He hits it so hard that the noise in the stadium, you can actually hear the slap on the ball. And the reaction save from Schmeichel, okay, it's close to him, but he still has to move his hand to stop the ball. And the noise with which it hits his hand, I was like, that would have broke my wrist if I was in goal trying to save that. So I just thought it was a good save, but Rashford could do better, but credit to Schmeichel at the same time. There was 2 or 3 other half chances mixed in there as well, so you did feel a goal was coming. So to see Cavani come on, I thought that was good. We're forcing the issue here. We know we can win. Cavani's just different gravy at times. He's just a touch of class, as you say. He's not just about the goals. He's racking up some assists now as well, and just in general his play is very, very good and very, very clever. And for the assist yesterday, it's one touch to get the ball out his feet on the turn, and then it's just a lovely ball with the outside of his foot through the gap. I actually think Bruno scuffs it past Schmeichel because he kicks it into the ground. But I remember Andy Gray used to say all the time, if you're going to scuff it in the corner, where the keeper has absolutely no chance of stopping it because it's just going to roll by him, and that's exactly what happened. It just rolled by him into that far corner. And you were kind of hoping, just because of how on top we were at that point, that we were going to maybe go and get a third, and that would just absolutely kill the game. But we just seemed to take our foot off the pedal a wee bit, and that was a bit disappointing to see. And I never thought the second goal for Leicester was coming, but I did think we slowed down. We tried to see the game out, which I just thought was wrong. And then obviously Leicester scored their goal, and I think there's a few mistakes from our part in the second goal for Leicester as well.
Yeah, there's been a bit of debate about that second goal, and obviously Leicester made their move as well, and Jose Perez comes in like literally a minute after we go ahead. And like you say, I still didn't feel worried at all. They weren't creating that much. I think it's pretty natural with 10 minutes to go that you're going to drop off a little bit, try and hold on to that 2-1. We'd already made all of our subs by that point because Tuanzebe did also come in with Lindelof at right back. But yeah, if we talk about that goal specifically, there was a lot of debate about it. I'm always looking at it as a centre-back. I was slightly disappointed in our defence because Vardy is all on his own around the 6-yard box. There's no other Leicester player around the kind of action area of the box. There's a couple of others on the edge. And then there's Tuanzebe, there's Bailly, even like Maguire. But yeah, the ball is more around the far post. And maybe it's harsh, but I do think that between them, Tuanzebe and Bailly should be doing better when there's only one player in there. And at the same time, Tuanzebe is very unlucky because he does actually get a block on it. And in the end, I think this has officially gone down as
it's an own goal. Yeah, it's an own goal.
And because, it was going wide from Vardy. So he is actually very unlucky. But still, it is very good movement from Vardy, but we know he's going to do that. We know he's definitely going to create a chance for himself from somewhere. He's always going to find that extra yard. But yeah, like I said, just because he's the only one in there, I think that can become there. But yeah, I know a lot of other people, especially in our kind of chat, were giving a lot of blame for Pogba, and especially way earlier in this move, for not tracking back. The cross comes in eventually from Jose Perez, and there was kind of earlier in the move where Pogba maybe did have a chance to kind of track him. I don't know, you felt where the blame goes for that final equaliser.
I know what you mean about Tuanzebe and Bailey, but I do think it is excellent movement from Vardy, and Tuanzebe is unlucky because it is just a scuff shot again that is going wide, and he just takes that flick off of Tuanzebe. De Gea's got no chance, and it goes. So from the point in the middle of the box, I don't really assign too much blame, but I am more disappointed about the ball even finding its way into the box, because I think we should have stopped it at the source. Regarding Pogba, I've watched the replay a few times now, and I'm not sure if I explicitly blame Pogba. I think it's more just, see, sometimes situations happen in football where players react rather than be disciplined. They just react to what's going on, and when the ball, I think Perez has the ball, and then the ball goes wide to I can't remember who it is, the Leicester player on the far side anyway. But when the ball goes out wide, Fred is actually, I think Fred's the closest player to Perez, and he chases the ball wide to where the ball goes out to the wing. And then Pogba does point at Perez, but I think, to be fair, Fred is the one who was next to him, and he leaves him to go and push the player who then has received the ball. Pogba probably could do better in the sense that, I know he points at him, but I just think it was one of those where players just kind of reacted to the ball going out wide, forgot where they were for a moment, the ball comes back into the box, Perez squares it, and I just think that's where we kind of should have sorted it out, was at that point, somebody should have got the block in initially, but the ball goes out wide, or maybe Pogba or Fred hold a line with Perez, and then maybe, I think it's Maguire, I can't remember who, but somebody then is at the near post when the ball's then coming across towards Vardy. I just think there was a few opportunities there to stop the ball, but I just think the players just either got caught ball watching or were reacting to what was going on around about them and just got caught out of position. I just think it was one of those goals. There's blame in a few places, basically.
Yeah, fair enough. And as I say, you probably say, look, at some point Jamie Vardy is going to get a chance in a game like this. Unfortunately, it's come right at the end of the game, and he's managed off a deflection to get it in the back of the net. That was the kind of disappointment when and as I say, away from home, we're not used to this. We're normally the ones who are chasing the game, getting the late goals. So that's why it did feel really like a disappointment and like 2 points dropped. But look, we're still very well placed. Leicester are in good form. So we can't really moan that much. But it's a week as well that we come off having progressed in the League Cup, now ending up into the semi-final. If we look ahead to that one over there, I mean, for the Leicester game itself, I don't know if there's much else to say. As I say, we feel disappointed coming out of it, but we would have probably taken that point. We're still quite well placed there. And it's that run coming on. I mean, I know I had said when there was first this kind of talk coming out of, I think it was just before we played Sheffield United, first people started saying, well, look, we're only, if we win our game in hand, we're only a few points off top spot. Are we in this title race? And I'd said, if we beat Sheffield United and Leeds in that Yorkshire doubleheader, then for me, we are in this title race. So yeah, we won both of those. Then to draw this game, we're still right up there. So it's not a bad result, just feels frustrating really. But yeah, as I say, it's still a good week for us, having progressed now to the semi-final. If we look at that Everton game, there was a lot of changes, 9 changes. The only 2 that made it through were Bruno and Maguire. Everybody else was changed out there. So yeah, plenty of rotation. I think that right back spot in particular is quite interesting because with Aaron Wan-Bissaka out injured for the first time in ages, because he's played loads of football last season, a lot this season. We then saw Tuanzebe start against Everton. Lindelof then started against Leicester and went off actually with a slight knock, and Tuanzebe came in. I mean, out of the 2 of them, who do you think felt more suited to being the kind of backup right back to Aaron Wan-Bissaka?
I liked Tuanzebe being in there, if I'm being honest. I thought, okay, he concedes the goal yesterday, but I think Tuanzebe brings a lot. He's got a lot of physicality. He's very fast as well. I think he's a clever defender. I thought he played well against Everton in midweek. So if Wan-Bissaka is injured at the moment for, say, another couple of games, I think Tuanzebe's the player I would prefer to see in there over certainly over Lindelof. And Lindelof does look as though he's got a problem with his back, and Solskjaer said as much after the game when the interviewer said to him about Lindelof going off. Solskjaer kind of alluded to something had been not quite right maybe for a week or so beforehand, and
I think he has constant back problems, doesn't he? It's something that seems to flare up like every now and again, and I think it's an issue for him like continuously.
So it does seem like Solskjaer's thinking if it's bad enough, he's probably going to have to give him some significant time off as well, just to try and recover a wee bit from that. So if that's the case, personally I would quite like to see Tuanzebe fill in at the right back position just until whenever it is Wan-Bissaka's back fit as well.
Yeah, no, I thought he had a good game, and he said it slightly tongue-in-cheek, but I know in our match kind of chat, Colm had said that Tuanzebe's already the best right back at the club. But he said it because we've had this kind of debate about Aaron Wan-Bissaka, and he's not a big fan of him because he's not great on the ball, whereas I think myself and Ushwin and a couple of others have said, listen, he makes up for it with like some great tackles and the great kind of defensive side of it. But yeah, Tuanzebe does look a lot more comfortable on the ball. He's not obviously natural to playing right back, so you can't expect him to be like whipping in crosses or anything like that. But yeah, maybe if he has a few games in that position, he can go to it. I mean, now all of a sudden, earlier in the season, we saw like Timothy Fosu-Mensah getting a few games at right back, but he doesn't seem to be in favour at the moment. Even like with this extended bench, because we now have 9 players on the bench?
9 players on the bench is allowed now, yeah. And it doesn't seem like Fosu-Mensah is getting a look in. It was kind of weird at the start of the season anyway that he suddenly came right back into the picture, but that just seems to have maybe been an experiment at the start of the season that he tried Solskjaer, and I don't know if he's maybe just admitted defeat and now is thinking, yeah, that's more of a third choice for right back more than anything now, maybe, because just when it came through that Wan-Bissaka was injured and probably wasn't going to make it, I did half expect to maybe see Fosu-Mensah get a run out at right back. So the fact that he's not even being looked at the moment does make me think he's well down the pecking order.
Yeah, we did see him get a cameo. I think it was against Leipzig. He came on late, and I remember everybody moaning, saying, "Why are we making defensive substitutions at this point in the game?" And then we did score 2 goals after that. But yeah, he did. He was playing, a few weeks ago. But now, obviously, he's out of favour. I think his contract is up in the summer, so maybe it's a pointer towards the fact that he's going to be leaving the club. The other one as well that I've been slightly disappointed not to see more of this season has been Brandon Williams. He had a kind of great breakout season last year. He did drop off towards the end of the year. We didn't see him as much in that kind of post-lockdown period. But I really thought that he would get quite a bit of rotation at right back this season. And again, he's one that doesn't even seem to make the bench that regularly. He is now and again. I know he's been linked with moves away on loan, and maybe that is a good option for him to go and get some more regular game time, whether it's in the Premier League. I think even, apparently a couple of German clubs are looking at him because they always like the young English players. And maybe that will be a good option for him. But I have been slightly disappointed myself because I wanted to see more of him. Because he did have some really top performances last season. If you remember that goal against Sheffield United, and there was a couple of other games where he did really well for us against City. Like I say, if you look at the year, I always like to see which young players come through. And I remember last season I said I was disappointed not to see a bit more of Gomez and Garner. And I think this season I thought Williams was going to be the one who was going to play a bit more. But no, really, he's not being given much of a chance at all. So I don't know whether that points to Ole not really trusting him or whether he just needs to go and get a loan deal and bring his game on.
Yeah, I think it's maybe more the latter, that he's maybe thinking he needs to go out on loan and just find his feet a wee bit more, maybe, if that's the right term. The fact that there has been rumours of the likes of Leverkusen and I can't remember who the other German team is, maybe Augsburg or somebody like that. The fact that he still has been linked with these loan moves does make me think that perhaps the club are indicating to the agent of the player or the player himself that, look, you're not going to get much of a look in for certainly the rest of this season, so it would be in his interest and in the club's interest as well to still have him playing as much as possible. And if he could go to the Bundesliga, say for 6 months or so from January, and just get some regular game time, that would be beneficial to him. It would probably help us to know that one of the young players that does seem to be a good player is at least out and getting some experience and getting some minutes, rather than just not even making the bench, sometimes playing for the reserves, and that's about it really, because I keep an eye on some of the reserve games, and while he is playing at times, it doesn't seem as though he's playing a lot at the moment, so a loan move might be in his best interest.
I think that has been a problem this season for players like Williams, where they're not getting the minutes at the senior level, and then because they've got separate bubbles now, it gets really complicated if a player is training with the first team and then is wanting to play with the reserves. What I understand is that he has to train with the first team, and then he even has to go in like a separate dressing room to get ready separately from the rest of the team, and it's all really weird, especially when you're playing on the same pitch, and there's players like Mengi, Williams, who are the ones that kind of, are still the age that they can play with the reserves, but really are training often with the first team. But this year has made it quite difficult for them to kind of split between the two. They end up just in this kind of limbo of not playing enough games, enough minutes either way, really. Maybe a loan move for him does make sense, especially if we feel comfortable with backup in the likes of Tuanzebe or Lindelof. That does make sense. And if we go back to the Everton game, if somebody like Williams is not getting even a substitute appearance in a Carabao Cup game, then where is he going to play, really? It's only if you have a real defensive injury crisis that he's ever going to get games. In that game, like I said, we made 9 changes. Tuanzebe had a start. Bailly obviously has come back in the team recently. The funny thing with Bailly is that whenever he's fit, he plays a couple of games, seems all right, and you kind of think, Bailly can be a good player, but I kind of just don't feel I can rely on him anymore, because we've had a whole list of these kind of central defenders, whether it's Smalling, Jones, Rojo, that if they're fit and get a run of games, they play pretty well, but they never seem to be able to stay fit for 2 months in a row.
Yeah, you just can't trust him, can you? I mean, at times he looks sound defensively, he looks absolutely fine, he looks like he might be a decent partner for Maguire, but liabilities maybe a bit over the top, but certainly he's crazy at times. I mean, even the handball situation yesterday, that's just had something kind of Bailey written all over it, that he's standing pointing to Fred saying play the ball out that way, and then even after Fred's kicked the ball at him, he's still standing with his arm outstretched. It hits him in the arm, and while it's maybe harsh, at the same time it's handball. But there's so many other ones. You see all the memes and stuff on Twitter where he tackles Vardy into the touchline and ends up kind of falling over Vardy as he's trying to get back up and then runs back onto the pitch. He's just mental at times between his clearances and the way he behaves and what have you. And I just think in equal measure that, yeah, you'll put some good performances in, you also just cannot trust him to put a 5 or 6 game stretch together where you actually finally think, yeah, okay, moving forward, he's the centre-half partner for Maguire. And I just think the whole kind of carousel of, as you said, Bailey, Lindelof, Rojo, Jones, whoever else, this has to stop. We have to go and get an absolutely solid centre-half to play alongside Maguire, because there was a start named in the game yesterday where at one point Maguire got the ball and passed it on, and the commentator said he read that out of everybody in world football, Harry Maguire has played the most minutes in 2020. He's hardly had a game off. He's hardly had time off. For that reason alone, we need to go and get a more commanding centre-half, where even in games like, say, the Everton game on Wednesday night, you can give Maguire a rest. He's constantly having to play him because he just cannot trust any of the other centre-halves to not play without Maguire.
Yeah, it is a bit crazy how many minutes Maguire plays. Bruno as well, like I say, they were the only two who survived in that Everton rotation. But yeah, I think it does also show kind of how strong our squad is at the moment. You know, when you look at our bench, like yesterday, you saw like sat on the bench like several good options: Pogba, Cavani, Van der Beek, and you feel like really like our squad depth is good now.
Yeah, good,
last season we talked about having quite a thin squad, but it has been improved a lot for sure. And yeah, don't have too many injuries at the moment either. But yeah, let's go back to the Everton game and basically talk about, I don't want to spend that much time on it because this is the crazy thing nowadays. It was only a few days ago, but it seems like a lifetime ago that we played Everton. But I thought the game started pretty well, and I thought we started pretty well, like 20 minutes or so, and then there was kind of an hour, like kind of in the middle where not a lot happened at all. There wasn't that many chances either way, and it was quite a kind of stifled game, and it really looked like it was heading towards penalties. And I remember writing a message around like the kind of 80th minute saying, I'm glad we've got Henderson in net because David De Gea never gets anywhere near any penalties. But yeah, Cavani then pops up with an absolute class finish in, I think it was like the 88th minute, and just, made the difference on the day, and just shows you, he hadn't done a huge amount in the game up till that point. But yeah, that's the difference that bit of class can make at that point, and takes you basically into the semi-final of a cup.
Absolutely. The finish from Cavani is just absolute class. It's deadly. The way he takes that touch inside just kills the defender, and even then, it's not an easy finish by any stretch of the imagination. He puts it so far into the corner, out of the reach of the goal, where the keeper's got no chance, and he hits it so hard as well. It's just an excellent finish. Even when he takes the touch inside, you kind of just knew yourself watching, this is a goal. And sure enough, it just bangs it in the bottom corner. It's absolutely excellent. The rest of the game itself, I did think the first 20 minutes, United were creating chance after chance for that first 20-25 minutes. And I was amazed that even got to half-time at 0-0, just because we did start very, very well. And you were a bit worried at one point in the second half, not because of anything Everton were doing, just purely off the fact that we had started the game so well, made so many chances, should have scored at least one. And it was maybe one of those games where you're thinking, might not be our day here, we're just not scoring. But the middle stretch of the game wasn't particularly great. Yeah, it was a nitty-gritty kind of game. But as you say, that touch of class that Cavani gives you, and it is world-class ability to be able to take the touch of the ball, as I say, inside like that, and just immediately after you've beat the defender, just smash it as hard and true as that into the corner is just excellent. Absolutely excellent.
Yeah, and that is kind of, you say the world-class finishing who makes the differences on the day. We did, of course, then get another late goal just to seal it when Everton were chasing the game and to make it safe. And yeah, we roll on to the semi-final in there for the second year in a row. And for the second year in a row, we're going to end up playing Manchester City.
You just knew it was going to be City. You just knew it. Like, the minute it went to the draw, I was messaging my pals saying, this is absolutely going to be Man United, Man City. It's just absolutely written that that's going to be the game. So, when we drew City, I kind of messaged you guys saying, I'm a bit bored of this, and I was only meaning because every single year, domestically, in one of the trophies, we seem to play Man City. So I was just kind of hoping, Brentford, okay, yeah, that would have been good for the chances in terms of making a final. Tottenham, alright, that would have been difficult, but just purely for something different, I wanted us to see one of those two teams come out to draw against us rather than playing Man City again in another domestic trophy.
Yeah, and that game comes next week. I think we're on Wednesday, the 6th of Jan. We are at home. And like I said, this season, it's not been that clear whether being at home is an advantage for us or not. But yeah, we obviously just played out a 0-0 draw with City just last week. So yeah, we'll see where we go over there. You know, when it is kind of a chance at redemption from last season. So I remember, even though it was two-legged last season, and I think this season it's just going to be the one leg in the Carabao Cup at
home.
It's
one leg. Yeah,
it's a one-off match, whereas normally you play both home and away. And last season we got absolutely spanked off City in the first game. I remember we had a very weak team out. You know, that's when we were still playing the likes of Andreas Pereira in midfield because we were like threadbare at the time. So it wasn't that much of a surprise. And then we did manage to turn it around in the second leg, but all the damage had been done in that first leg. So yeah, it's a kind of chance to show that, you know, we have progressed from where we were this time last year. And, you know, it's a thing I keep trying to remind everybody of, where people talk about the whole Ole in, Ole out situation. I say, just look at where we were this time last year and look at where we are now. And I remember when we went into that Carling, I always call it the Carling Cup.
I know it is the Carling Cup as well.
Cup or whatever, but yeah, Carabao Cup. And nobody gave us much chance last year, whereas this season you feel pretty confident. And yeah, it's worth remembering that this time last season, we were 24 points behind Liverpool. Whereas this year, you know, we're 5 points behind with a game in hand. And, you know, really does make although, yeah, I do know Liverpool are playing West Brom.
I think they're winning 1-0 right now. But I know what you mean, it's still miles closer than last season. Last season we were so far off the pace, it was unbelievable. And while, truth be told, Liverpool are the best team in the country, that's not even up for debate for me at the moment. It's still refreshing to see, okay, they're not that far in front. Last year they were absolutely miles in front, but they're not that far in front at the moment in terms of the points total. And I genuinely think the League Cup semi-final is a toss-up between us and City. I think last year, yeah, you went into the semi-finals thinking we could win, but it's not likely. Whereas I think this time I genuinely can't pick between the two teams who's going to win. I think we've got a very good chance, but I also think obviously City have got a very good chance. They seem to have picked it up a wee bit in recent weeks, so I think it'll be a good game. I would hope it's a good game, and let's just see what happens next week.
Yeah, and like I said, that Everton game was interesting and shows our real squad depth. There was players you might expect to see over there. I did actually want to give a random shout out to a player that we've not seen much of for ages, because I actually went shopping in Tesco today, and I am up north for Christmas, and any of the Manchester lads will know, yeah, I went to Tesco in Altrincham, and I actually saw in there Odion Ighalo doing his shopping, obviously after finishing his Christmas. He was in, and this is a really famous Tesco, this, because if people remember from way back, like when David De Gea first came to us, he was arrested for shoplifting.
Is that where he stole the donut from?
Yeah, it's the same Tesco. It's because, like, you know, this is the area where all the footballers live, in the areas like Hale, Bowden, that are kind of nearby. But then, yeah, so like I say, this is an infamous Tesco supermarket for Man United players. So yeah, I was doing there, stocking up after Christmas to refill the fridge, and see Odion Ighalo over there. And, like, you know, he's a player you totally forget about. That, like, he still is a Man United player for a few more days. I think his contract officially finishes on the 31st. And like I said, just wanted to mention him because, yeah, maybe that Everton game was the last chance he might have thought we might see him, but he didn't feature at all. I think the last game we did see anything of him, he had like literally 5 minutes against PSG when we were chasing the game in that match over there.
Yeah.
But yeah, he has actually been at the club for a year. I kind of actually thought he was unlucky last season not to play a little bit more, and said it on the podcast. So he had that great kind of introduction when I think it was some kind of record where he scored in his first 5 starts for us. They were all cup games, but he scored in every single one, mostly like Europa League and Carabao Cup and maybe FA Cup. But I think Ole always had this thing of just throwing him in for like 5-10 minutes at the end of matches, and he never really, I'm not sure if he ever started a Premier League game for us. But yeah, in the end, he's played 23 games for us, scored 5 goals. But I think as soon as we signed Cavani this summer, I think it was pretty clear that we were just going to be letting his kind of loan deal come to an end and let him move on from there. So yeah, he is surely one who's just in his last few days here. I think maybe that'll even be his last shop in England before heading back to China. I don't know, because like I say, officially his contract's coming to an end.
He's had some good moments though. Like there was the goal he scored in Austria, if you remember.
Yeah, there was an absolute mega goal.
Great control on each leg before he just leathers it into the top corner. That was a great finish. He had some other good finishes. I think it was against Derby as well in one of the cups last season. Even against Man City, where we won 2-0 at Old Trafford, he came on and I thought he was excellent for the last 5-10 minutes of the game, like holding the ball up well, laying it off to players, and even on that final attack when McTominay scores, it's just purely off the fact that when they knock it long, Ighalo holds the ball up, shields it well, plays it into Dan James, and then it's kind of from that phase of attack, Ederson gives the ball away, McTominay scores. So he has had some good moments for us. And last season I did think he was unlucky not to play some more games. But as you say, when we've signed Cavani in the summer, I think that kind of signalled that he would be quite far down the pecking order. And as you say, if he's not going to play against Everton in the Carabao Cup in the midweek, it would be hard. You'd be hard pushed to see him play again for United before he leaves. But even on that note, maybe he might get 5 minutes against Wolves on Tuesday night. You never know. Just to kind of say thanks for the effort for the last year. Cheers. See you.
Yeah, let's say, like I say, he came in and it was kind of an almost like emergency signing, like in the last Christmas window when we had a few injuries and we needed somebody to come in. And I remember there was a lot of people maligning his signing at the time, but he came in and did well when he needed to. And it was always that thing that you could just see he was just so happy to get a chance to play for the club.
Yeah, he was.
Because he said, it was famous that he took quite a big pay cut to play for us and was just being a Man United fan all through his life. So yeah, look, he did his bit. He's coming in there and we'll move on now. I don't know if he has to go back to China now or what exactly. As I say, with all COVID times, travel and stuff like that is all a bit weird. So yeah, maybe he'll get a chance to chill out still over here in South Manchester for a while more, and I might still bump into him in Tesco again, we'll see. But yeah, moving on now to look at the games coming up. As I say, they still come thick and fast. We've got Wolves coming up in a couple of days' time. After that, Aston Villa. So yeah, we had this kind of Yorkshire doubleheader when we played Sheffield United and Leeds United. Now it's a Midlands doubleheader with Wolves and Aston Villa. Bizarrely, Aston Villa are actually the one in much better form than Wolves at the moment. Wolves are not in good form at all recently. They've actually lost 3 out of their last 4 Premier League games. We're recording before they play Spurs in this kind of round of matches. But yeah, they lost to Burnley recently, and their only win actually in those last 4 games actually came against Chelsea. They're down in 12th right now. But yeah, they've been a team that we've, like you say, against City, it became boring. Wolves is another team like that where we just played way too many times. Played them in the FA Cup. We played them just so many times over there. And it's always a really tight game. We had so many draws, or there was like one goal here and there that we lost by. We even won by 1-0 in the FA Cup one time. They beat us 2-1 another time. So yeah, those Wolves matches have been very, very tight. They're massively been missing Jimenez up front, who obviously had that horrible head injury and is not going to be available anytime soon. And then apart from that, I did think it was a bit weird in the summer when they sold Matt Doherty pretty cheap, who actually may play against them for Spurs today. But yeah, like I say, they've not been in the best run of form at all. So yeah, you're assuming that we can go into that game and get a win.
Yeah, I watched the game they played against Arsenal when Jimenez got his his really awful injury, and you kind of saw immediately after that he was the focal point of attack. Like everything that they done up front came from the first point of attack being Jimenez. That he would win everything in the air. He'd be a threat, even with the ball at his feet, with his back to goal. He could bring other players into the play. The minute he got injured, they don't even have anything remotely like that on the bench. It's like a whole kind of new way of attacking that they've had to play. They played well against Chelsea, but I've watched a couple of their games since, and they were really poor against Burnley, and they got beat by Burnley last week. And I think they are struggling to fill the Jimenez size gap that they've got up front at the moment. They've got some very good players. I think the young guy, is it Philippe Luis or something his name is? I think he's one of their young players. And a few of their other players are excellent.
I think maybe you're talking about Fabio Silva.
Sorry, Silva. That's correct. Yeah. They've got some good young players, but they're very hit and miss this season. They're not as reliable as they have been in previous seasons, and I do think a lot of that comes from the fact that they don't have arguably their best player available at the moment.
Yeah, he is a big miss for them. I mean, the one who's actually come through this season, and again, he's one of the few players who's done well for my fantasy team, which, as I mention every week, has been an absolute awful fantasy season for me. But they've got Daniel Podence, who's young as well, Portuguese winger who's been doing pretty well for them and is now playing like every week. The one who's come in starting week in, week out in Jimenez's absence is Neto, who is also a decent player. And as you say, coming off the bench, they've often got this Fabio Silva, the one under the random player, and in fact, who's been getting a few starts for the first time. He's only 19 years old. This Owen Otasoe, who's actually an American kid who's been with Wolves for a while. And I don't know if when we get our friend from over the pond, Ushwin, back on the pod, whether he knows much about him, but he's been starting in kind of attacking midfield positions for Wolves in the last couple of matches. Like I say, he's only 19 years old. I did see a little bit of him, and he looks quite an interesting player. He's absolutely massive. So you think of him more of like a defensive player. But he got an assist the other day, I think, against Chelsea, actually. Yeah, he set up the goal, the winning goal for Podence against Chelsea. So yeah, he's one to look out for if he gets a start against us, Owen Otasoe. As you say, yeah, they're trying to make up for that. They've got other players around there, but yeah, he is their big miss. But it's difficult because, he's a damn good manager, so you can't think it's going to be an easy win. Off the kind of form book, we should win this one, but you can never take it for granted because, yeah, he is a good manager.
I think their midfield is always very solid as well. When you've got Moutinho, Neves, Dendoncker even. I like Dendoncker as a player. They've got some very good players in the midfield, so even if they're not,
defensively they're still solid.
Even if they're not quite clicking up front, it'll be a very hard game, I think, because they are very solid in midfield and they've got a good defence as it is anyway. So I think we should win going off the form book, I agree, but you just don't look forward to these Wolves games as a spectacle at the moment when we play them because it's always tight. It's always a tight game.
No, and after that we've got Villa, who've been on damn good form this season.
Very well.
We always talk about our game in hand. They've got 2 games in hand because they missed that first game of the season like we did. But then they also had their game against Newcastle called off because of COVID. So they've got 2 games in hand, which would, if they manage to get results in them, would throw them right into the race. But yeah, they're basically built on an absolute solid defence and nicking the odd goal. Not had that many goals in them, but I saw against Palace yesterday that they went down to 10 men and still managed to come out 3-0 winners, which is pretty impressive. So yeah, that's definitely not a game to be taken lightly. After that, we have a cup doubleheader, so it's that City semi-final, and then we've got Watford in the FA Cup, which starts again. For me, there's just too many matches because after that Watford game, we have a bit of a break. And then, we're actually playing Liverpool. Don't know if people realise, but this year they're still keeping in this kind of winter break where 1 week every team doesn't play and gets a rest. So after this absolutely manic period of playing like every 2-3 matches, between that Watford FA Cup game and Liverpool, we actually have a kind of like 8-day rest. I actually think that maybe we should play quite a weakish team against Watford. It would be a great time for Ole to give some players a real break before then going into the crazy rest of the season. Because I think then, once we hit February, we start hitting back off in the Europa League again as well. After this crazy December, Jan, where we've ended up playing literally every 3 days, it comes to Watford, we then get a break, and then it is Liverpool. We're going to be playing Liverpool there, and that will end up being a kind of big, it's a 6-pointer, depending on where we're at in there. All right, we do have a couple of league games leading up to there. But yeah, people are saying, and like you said it, Jamie, and I know a lot of other people are saying, well, there's Liverpool, then a load of other teams in the Premier League, and then Sheffield United, who are like way worse than everybody else. And that's the way kind of a lot of people are seeing it at the moment. But look, I just say, we're rolling on, we're in there, and we shouldn't take anything for granted over here. Well, after the kind of way we've battled back in there, nobody, 2 months ago, we were talking about Man United in crisis, and now people are saying, are we in the title race? I think, even yourself, Jamie, weren't you a month or so ago saying, I'm not sure about where I am on Ole anymore.
Yeah.
I think after we went out of the Champions League, a lot of people were questioning again.
Yeah, it was after the Champions League, because there seemed to be 2 or 3 games around that period when I was watching the game, and I don't know, I've always associated Man United with being exciting. That's the thing that I would have always said, even though we were going through periods where we maybe weren't very good, under, say, Sir Alex Ferguson, where we had 2 or 3 quiet years. United were always exciting. They were exciting to watch, whereas if you look at the managers that have failed previously to Solskjaer, that's one of the criticisms that you can level at them come the end of their time, is United became stale, pedestrian and predictable. That was the problem. The football was boring. Those games around about that time when we went out the Champions League, I just thought, I'm not enjoying these games at all, and too many times I'm watching the games thinking, I don't even see what we're trying to do. I don't even see a pattern of play. I don't see what the actual intent is here and how we're trying to attack. But to be fair to Solskjaer, the last few games, okay, the Leeds game was a freak result, but even then, there's been a more clear direction. The games have been better, they've been exciting to watch, and as you say, sometimes we are just throwing caution to the wind and actually going for it again, which is good to see. I don't know if that was maybe just a period where everybody was finding it a bit hard and a bit tough, and the games were just boring, and I was worried about the actual direction of the team more than anything else. But I'm still not convinced that we should give him all the time in the world, and maybe at the end of the season we'll need to reevaluate on where we are. But it's just been better to see the last 4 or 5 games that there's a more clear intent and direction from the club. I mean, this is exactly what they should be doing. Like in the Everton game, start the games fast, put the other team under immediate pressure, get them on the back foot. Even yesterday, I know we conceded the goal and went 1-1, but we started off, we made some really good chances, we scored the goal, and then after that, we had 5 minutes or so where we started to dictate the pace of the game and still create chances, and that's what I want to see from United. I don't want to see these situations where, yeah, okay, it was great the win and run away from home, it was cracking, but you can't just keep conceding the first goal every single time you play away from home. That had to change, so that's why it was really refreshing yesterday to see the start we got in the game and the fact we actually took the lead. And I think that was one of the other things that concerned me, was just how often the other teams just seem to get right on top of us and score goals quite easily. I mean, that still is an issue, quite frankly. The amount of goals we concede at times is ridiculous, and we need to be doing better there. But I just think over the last month or so, since we kind of went out the Champions League, maybe it has been better.
No, look, apart from a couple of bad results in the Champions League versus Paris Saint-Germain, versus Leipzig, who are, of course, damn good teams, we've actually been in really good form, going all the way back to kind of start of November, where we lost that one match to Arsenal, which was horrible.
That's still infuriating, that result as well.
It is, especially given Arsenal's recent form, although, yeah, they did turn up against Chelsea yesterday, which actually is good for us as well, in a way, really. But, yeah, going back to there, we're like 11 matches unbeaten in the Premier League, which has taken us all the way from kind of mid-table to top 4. And we are in this title race. Like, it's a weird season, so I can't say we're in it like in a way to really get excited about. But the reality is we are there. We now have this double-header against these Midlands teams, Wolves and Aston Villa, both at home. We actually, bizarrely, now have 4 home matches in a row.
Yeah, I saw that
Wolves,
yesterday.
Villa,
that's weird,
City.
isn't it?
Yeah, it is weird. But I think we've kind of put to bed a bit that kind of home hoodoo, thankfully. Because, 2 months ago, everybody was saying, we don't want to play at home. Close Old Trafford. Let's just go out on the road. But yeah, obviously we tonked Leeds at home and we had a decent, even if not a win, decent result against Manchester City. I thought decent, although not everybody else was happy with it at the time. And but yeah, now we got 4 matches in a row, 2 of them league matches, 2 of them cup matches, which leads up to that big match against the Scousers in the middle of kind of Jan. So yeah, look, as I say, this is going to be the run, and our next 2 matches are very winnable. Wolves, Villa, although yeah, Villa are in good form, and of course you can't ever take Wolves lightly because they've got a good squad, a good manager. But that's it. On the kind of form we're on, we want to be winning these games and keeping this kind of challenge up there. I mean, I still don't expect us to say we're going to win this league, but even if we just solidly stay top 4 for the whole season, I actually think that is very good progress and something that we should be happy about.
I agree. I mean, I don't think we're in the title race as come the end of the season, will we be near whoever eventually wins the title? Probably Liverpool. No. But if we can, as you say, solidly stay second, third all season and not be constantly dragged back into a battle where it's, who's going to make the top 4, and we fluctuate between third and 7th or 8th with other teams who are trying to make the top 4, if we're consistently second or third, staying up there all season, having a good run domestically in the other trophies. I'm not particularly bothered about the Europa League this year, but if you were to factor in a long run into the Europa League as well, I think that would be an improvement this season. So yeah, I'm just kind of looking forward to just seeing how we get on over the next couple of games, and can this team maintain the decent unbeaten run that they're on at the moment in the league. I mean, I'm not looking forward to the Wolves game as a spectacle, as I said, just because I just think when we play them, it's just almost like a war of attrition at times where there's not many chances. You have to take the 1 or 2 that comes your way and try and win the game. But on the flip side of that, I'm really looking forward to the Aston Villa game. I think their games have actually been quite good to watch at times this season, and I think that could be quite an exciting game when we play against them. So get 2 decent results this week, see where we are come January when we play that game against Liverpool, and I think we're in for a good second half of the season if we can stay up there.
Yeah, definitely. Lots to look forward to, I'd say. Especially after, like I say, 2 months ago, everybody was talking about Man United in crisis, talking about which manager's replacing Ole, and now the whole media narrative is, Man United are in the title race. So it just shows you how crazy these things are and how quickly things can change. I think, we're probably then wrapping up for our kind of Boxing Day session. We will try and get back after Wolves, but as I say, at this time of year, it's difficult to try and see who's available, and getting 2-3 of us available at the same time. We'll definitely see you after Aston Villa in the new year and see where we're at after that, basically. But as I say, 4 home matches coming up now, 2 league games, 2 cup games, and it's our kind of run up for the big Liverpool match to show just how much we have progressed. And I don't see any reason at all why we can't keep running and say, we're up there in this title race, and at the very least be quite comfortably in the top 4 there. Do want to give a shout out again, just reminding everybody about our Patreon. So check out patreon.com/United Hour. Thank you very much to the people who have supported us on there already. Really does make a difference to us and encourages us to keep churning out these for you guys. We've also just given a test run to having a match day chat. So we will be sending out to our Patreon subscribers the kind of link there that you can join. As I say, that's worth its weight in gold to hear Jamie and Ashwin and Ed moaning all through the matches about what's going on.
Too reactionary.
Yeah, as I say, come on there. And for sure, by kind of January, we will be putting out some exclusive content for our Patreon backers, just to see over there. Thank you for supporting us over there, basically. I think that's probably all for us for this week, right, Jamie? We'll say good night to the troops.
Absolutely.
And but if we don't see you before the New Year after the Wolves game, Happy New Year to everybody. This 2020 has been an absolute ridiculous year, everybody all around the world. Let's hope 2021 is better, and let's be honest, it really can't be much worse, can it?
Not at all. And Happy New Year, troops. All the best and stay safe.
Right, I need to run off to the toilet, so yeah, nice one, Jamie.